Welcome to Copilots, the podcast where we watch not just the first episode of a show,
but also the second. Some shows don't have the best pilot episode, and giving it a second chance might just change your mind.
Here we take that chance for you, and let you know our opinion on if a show deserves more than one shot.
I'm Justice. Alongside me is my co-pilot Josh. Now, let's get ready for takeoff. Your in-flight entertainment this time will be It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Is it insane that we've never seen, even part of an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia? Except as, clip shows and YouTube videos from other things?
It feels like it should be, but, I know so few people who've actually ever even watched the show, though.
Because, my, deepest context for anything in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is 3 pieces. 1, Rumham.
Yeah.
And that's because, Binging with Babish. And,
yep, fair.
2 is the Nightman.
Yeah.
And 3 is because of the implication.
Yeah, also Milk Steak.
Milk Steak, that's right. Milk Steak.
Also because of Binging with Babish. I didn't know Nightman until we did our Nightman episode.
Yeah.
So
it's just weird to me that I know their show only from clips and memes.
Mm-hmm.
And
anytime I've heard people that I know talk about the show, then the people that I've seen some of it, they've never liked it.
No, it's always the show's not very funny. Except apparently the show is goddamn hilarious because all of the memes and all of the clips I see from it are
always great.
This is the best comedy.
Yeah, every time I see a clip or something, it's it's actually kind of funny at the very least. And I would have to assume it's somewhat good. It has fucking 16, maybe 17 seasons.
And honestly, if I was still submersed into internet meme culture like I was in high school, I would be saving these memes into a folder just to have them ready to go for
I never did a reaction folder thing. It just seemed kind of cringe.
Thanks.
I wasn't saying that to be insulting.
No, I get it.
It was just always my opinion on it, and many people did it. So
I get it. You think it's cringe to have reaction folders?
I mean, yeah, kind of. If I really want a reaction, I'll search one, but I also don't use reaction images really.
I think you're the weird one.
I mean, probably. I've acknowledged this. I don't do internet culture really.
So It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is a 2005 FX original show.
Fucking 2005.
Executive produced, starring Charlie Day.
Yep.
And a bunch of other people. And
as I unfortunately learned from these 2 episodes, and then having to look it up out of curiosity, Danny DeVito doesn't apparently become a main cast member until season 2.
It's ran for 16 seasons now.
Yeah.
Which is way more than I imagined.
Right. We started this episode, and it was shot in standard definition, not high definition.
And what's that letter?
16:5 letterbox?
Yeah, 16:5. Yeah. No, it wasn't letterboxed because that's...
Yeah, letterbox is always... It should be 16:5, I think, is the square one. No, 16:5 would be a rectangle. I don't fucking know.
It's 9 by...
I don't fucking know. It was shot in a square. Okay? Look, we know other random film terms. We apparently do not know standard ratio size for filmings, though.
Look, it was shot in the manner of TV before it all went digital.
Yeah, every show that was ever shot in standard definition is shot in that way. That's why I just called it standard definition.
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is from before the transition to digital TV.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about.
And it's still going.
Yep.
And I say that there's not other shows that did that. Every single soap opera ever made that transition.
Yeah.
The Simpsons made that transition.
The most popular Disney and Nickelodeon sitcoms that I can think of.
WWE, Monday Night Raw, and SmackDown.
You already said soap operas.
I did already say soap operas. You got me. But this sitcom made the transition and is still, as far as I'm aware, going.
Yeah.
And not only is it still going, it somehow has 6 episodes banned from streaming because of
I think it's
too much
5.
racism.
I think it's all blackface. I think they're all banned for blackface. The show apparently really likes doing blackface. I think 2 of them are because the character of Mac does blackface as Murtaugh from the Lethal Weapon series.
Can I say a potentially wild statement?
You can try.
I think blackface in the context of comedy where it's making criticisms on blackface is perfectly okay and should be allowed.
I don't know if I agree, but I don't think I entirely disagree either. I honestly think it's one of those things where I would need to actually have a there are reasons sensitivity handlers exist.
Yeah.
And, like, if a sensitivity consultant passed off on it, basically, like, to weigh, like, the actual cultural effect of how it's lampooning it and the results it's going for and how effectively it's doing it, then maybe.
Like, I think Tropic Thunder is probably,
And especially without seeing those episodes, I can't tell you if it had any, like, real significance and, like, actual satirical or material intent to it that mattered.
I think Tropic Thunder is, like, the classic example of blackface done in a way that's perfectly acceptable. Robert Downey Jr.'s character.
Yeah, I've never heard anyone complain about RDJ doing blackface in it,
Yeah.
which is crazy because everyone's complaining about everything else.
Yeah.
To be fair, basically always correctly.
There's also a Scrubs episode where Zach Braff does blackface.
Yes.
And again, should not be a problem because of the way it's handled. Like,
it's even treated like, what the fuck's wrong with you in the episode?
Yeah.
Because it's in one of his daydreams. And
it's a flashback, not a daydream.
Oh, yeah, in his flashback.
Well, like, in the moment, they're going to a party, a fraternity party, and it's a Halloween party. So JD, Zach Braff's character, has dressed up like Turk, and Turk has dressed up like JD, painted himself to look white. And, like, outside of the connection of them being together in that moment, it's not okay. And blackface in general is not okay. And, like, that's why when Turk gets distracted by a woman, because, like, the
and everyone else at the party is just like, what the fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah, and Zach Braff's left at the door by himself when it's opened by a primarily black fraternity.
Yeah.
He gets thrown off the porch because...
He's a white guy doing blackface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That episode's been removed from streaming services because...
Yeah, I think context probably really does matter.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think that's a sensitivity consultant like job. There's a reason the job exists. And like I said, I can't speak for the Always Sunny in Philadelphia episodes.
But you can speak for the Community episodes.
Yeah, he's a fucking drow, man. Like, he's painted pitch black.
He's a dark.
It's not blackface. He's not even pretending to be a black person. He's a fucking drow. Now, are drow problematic? Yeah, their existence is entirely problematic, and I don't know why D&D still has them, but...
I can tell you why D&D still has them.
Because is it because WotC was originally really racist, and they're still not very great about anything like that?
I was going to say it's because one of their most popular best-selling characters of all time is a drow.
So, yes?
Yeah, a little bit. Anyways, let's get to It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the first episode titled, The Gang Gets Racist.
You thought all of this was pointless and it had no bearing. No, it does. The first episode's also about racism.
They tackle racism. I don't know if tackle is the correct term.
They involve racism a lot in the show, apparently.
I mean, in a black comedy, a satire... It makes sense that you're tackling societal issues, and racism has been a societal issue for...
A systemic societal issue, yeah.
For 300 years in America?
Yeah, since it started, man.
Give or take. So, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. So, we start with the episode, and Charlie, Dennis, and Mac are in Patty's pub, closing up, counting out today's earnings. It's fucking pittances. It's less than $200.
Yeah.
For an entire night. Like, damn, man. It's fucking horrible night.
But it's also like a Thursday, right? Like, I think the, like, opening thing on it's like Thursday.
Yeah, I think so.
Or
Thursday's next episode.
No, Tuesday's next episode.
Oh, so yeah, a Thursday or some shit like that. And they've made like $200 in the night. The, like, thing is, like, it's still not a lot for a bar, but also, we don't know when their bar opened. Like, what time their bar runs from.
Yeah, but Thursday night, I mean, unless you have specials running or you're a well-known bar, like, it doesn't feel terrible. Bars mostly get their businesses Friday,
on the
Saturday.
Weekends,
yeah.
But I mean, I still don't think it's great either.
Probably not, especially for a town as big as Philadelphia.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they are in a major metropolitan city.
I want you to know, 2 times during this episode, like, they do establishing shots of, like, the locations around the city. I'd be like, yeah, where are they even at? And then I'm like, oh yeah, never mind. That's right.
Yeah. And as they're finishing close up, Dee comes in, who is Dennis's sister and also the or a bartender at the pub.
Yeah, she's a bartender at the pub, and like you said, Dennis's sister.
And she has just come back from acting class, and she's brought a friend, but she's popped in first to tell them not to be weird and to act cool, because they're not. They're not cool.
But anytime you tell a group of your friends, hey, be cool,
it never works.
It's never going to work.
Either it's because they are too awkward and they're going to try too hard, or they're assholes and now they're going to intentionally be weird.
And neither outcome is good.
No, neither is good.
Then Dee steps back out of the bar, and then she comes back in with her... Actually, no, she doesn't step out of the bar. Sorry.
Yeah.
So she's telling them to be cool, and then Terrell walks in, and they are all surprised because Terrell's black.
And they're like, hey, yeah, man, it's good to see you. Except that's not the first reaction. The first reaction they have is to freak out, step back, except for Mac, who walks forward, like, hey, man, we don't want any trouble. We're closed.
And he's like, yeah, I can see that. I'm Terrell. And they're like, oh,
yeah, Terrell, Dee's friend from acting class. And he's like, yeah, she was just telling us about you. We weren't expecting. And they're like, weren't expecting.
And then Mac literally goes, you to be black.
Yeah.
Because what I've learned about this show in these 2 episodes is that Mac, Dennis, and Charlie are all various aspects of Scott Pilgrim.
Kinda, yeah.
And Mac is the aspect that, like...
just blurts things out.
Needs to put his foot in his mouth and leave it there.
Yeah, he really does.
Also, Scott Pilgrim's a terrible person. That's part of
That's part of the entire character. And from my understanding, that it's also the point of all the characters in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
I've often heard It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia described as Seinfeld, except none of the characters ever get rewarded for their incompetencies.
Oh, I've always heard it as a show about bad things happening to bad people.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
It's almost like if Seinfeld had ended with all of the gang stuck in prison.
Yeah, I guess.
So...
I don't know. Is that a reference to something about Seinfeld?
Oh, Seinfeld's last episodes ended with all the Seinfeld gang being tried for murder because they didn't save somebody that was drowning.
Oh.
And they all get off scot-free because they have no...
legal responsibility.
To save somebody that's drowning.
Which is true. You don't have a legal responsibility, except for in a few cases where you technically do, but you generally have to have certain certifications and licenses and blah, blah, blah,
but
blah.
Yeah, like, that's the series finale of...
Unaware. I didn't watch Seinfeld. I'm not a fan of Seinfeld.
Neither am I.
The show or the comedian.
It was just enough cultural zeitgeist that it seeped into my brain.
Didn't for me.
So Terrell and them all sit down and they start having drinks together, and
all the guys like Terrell.
They're not
except Dennis.
Yeah, except Dennis. But they're all still casually racist. But Terrell's a club promoter, and at one point he says like he had a bar so packed that the N-words were hanging from the rafters.
Yes.
And like that's his quote.
And the phrase is important because one of the very white bar owners will say it in a moment.
Yeah, except they don't say it the way Terrell said it.
Yeah.
Terrell said it with the A. He said it as a soft.
He also said it in a lighter tone than will be said.
Yeah, but like they're all hanging out drinking, and then we cut to the next day, and it's Mac,
Dennis, and Charlie walking over to a cafe, and Mac and Charlie are both talking about how great Terrell is, and how he's such a cool guy, and he seems really macho and tough, because one of the conversations they were having is he was like talking to this guy and told him he would like tear his ass up.
So I actually think that was like the first seeded hint, and like I kind of understood where it was going.
Yeah, it was definitely.
Yeah, because like Terrell's talking about this large Mexican man across the bar from him, and he's like, I couldn't tell if the guy wanted to freak me or fight me, you know?
Yeah.
And like,
and he got right up in my face, and I was like, if you don't get on my face, I'm gonna tear that ass up. And he's like, well, then I guess you're gonna tear my ass up.
And they're like, well, what did you do? And he's like, I took it out to the back alley. I tore his ass up. Yeah. They hooked up in the alley. Yeah. Because Terrell is gay. Because Terrell is a musical theater actor in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I'll get that joke comes up later. But they're talking outside the coffee shop, and Charlie goes, we need to get him to promote our bar.
Yeah.
And like Dennis is totally against it. Mac's like,
because he's just got a weird vibe from Terrell, he says.
And Mac's like, man, even if he can only do half of what he promised, that's 200 people.
Yeah.
And then Charlie's like, yeah, you heard him. He had those hard R N-word
hanging from the rafters. Except he says it as a statement, whereas when Terrell says it, it was with a sense of levity, but by making something like just a plain statement, you lose some context for how something is being said.
It should also be noted, earlier in this scene, Mac and Dennis made fun of Charlie for like having an obsession with this waitress at this coffee shop because he's had a crush on her for so long. And of course, right as Charlie is saying that sentence, she shows up behind him
to get them their coffee order.
Yeah.
So she calls him Hitler and takes their orders, and Charlie protests, but that's kind of just the end of the scene there. He's made a very bad impression on the person he likes because he came across as extremely fucking racist.
It's not even like...
He was talking about hanging black people. That is the conversation she walked into.
That's what it sounds like, yeah. Yep. They do decide to hire Terrell, though, in this scene.
Yeah.
So later in the day, Mac and Charlie go to visit a college because Mac's like, man, I gotta make some black friends because I need to impress Terrell because he thinks we're racist. And Charlie goes, you're trying to make black friends specifically. I think that makes you racist.
Yeah.
And Charlie's kind of right. Like...
Yeah. So they get farther into the college and they come across some people playing dominoes. So they join in. Charlie's apparently really fucking good at dominoes and impresses people.
I want the audience to know that you...
Fair. I figured you were going to. That's why I led into it.
Before this episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Justice didn't know how to play dominoes.
It's an old people game.
Ouch.
I'm too young to know.
I've played so many matches of dominoes in my life.
Yeah. Look, man, anytime I was handed dominoes as a child, no one cared to teach me how to play. No one handed me a complete set from a box. I was handed random dominoes.
My 4th grade teacher initially is where I learned to play dominoes.
Fair, your 4th grade teacher was a good teacher.
That's a stretch.
I mean, arguably he was actually a smart and knowledgeable teacher. Whether he was an age-appropriate teacher is questionable.
Or whether he taught to a curriculum is also questionable.
Yeah, and by age-appropriate, I don't mean anything bad. I just mean like talked in a more serious manner, not like he was talking to 10-year-olds.
I also might mean it in a context way because
I don't know if in that sentence, because I'd never had him as a teacher.
We did read the Cask of
Amontillado?
Yeah, in 4th grade.
Yeah, like I said, like to an age-appropriate level, but like not in any wrong age-appropriate ways.
And The Merchant of Venice.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, Merchant's still my favorite Shakespeare, so...
It's good. The fact that, like, it's not part of, like, a lot of high school Shakespeare curriculum's disappointing because, like, you have so many people who are like, Shakespeare's so bad, or I'm so bored of Shakespeare. It's because they've heard the same fucking story all the fucking time.
Well, in their defense, and this is actually, like, a really, like, deep thing on Shakespeare, Shakespeare's surviving plays are like the pop music of today.
Yeah,
like
I'm aware.
They're the popular art.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the high art or the, like...
No, we have the things that he made for the masses, and the masses enjoyed, and thus you got a lot of playbills that existed for them and a lot of copies because it was performed so many times. It was performed not just by the Shakespearean theater. Yeah.
Shakespeare was kind of the Marvel or Disney of his day.
Yeah, I understand.
We don't have, like, the high art or, like, the... I'm trying to think of a specific word, but it's escaping my mind. But, like, the independent works. Yeah. Because those weren't successful and, like, not on the same scale as Shakespeare.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm aware. I'm just saying, like, the fact is I think it would go a long way to get more students and kids interested in Shakespeare to not just do the same ones you always hear. Like, obviously teach the ones that you are legally obligated to teach, but have, like, a small mini lesson on, like, The Merchant of Venice because it is a lot shorter.
And also, massively important in this conversation, just because Shakespeare was, like, the popular music of his day, it's not like some artists or musicians or composers who nobody, like, paid attention to their works while they were alive.
Yeah.
Shakespeare was a successful playwright.
Yes.
While he was alive. It's not like one of those people who died and then became successful.
Maybe he was a successful playwright in his day.
Fair enough. It was like 500 years ago now. So.
I mean, I'm just saying he didn't write them.
Oh yeah, it's very likely he stole some or most of his work.
No, he didn't write a single one.
That's also very likely.
Look, man, if Shakespeare managed to write his plays, why didn't any of his children know how to read or write?
Because
Ignore all the letters that Shakespeare actually wrote to people explaining why he wouldn't teach his children to read or write because it ruined his life. Ignore all of those.
Shakespeare was a classic unschooler. He was like, I'm not going to teach my kids to read. Reading is something you naturally learn to do as you age. That's an actual belief that people in America now hold. They're called unschoolers, and it hurts me.
Yeah, no, Shakespeare was just like, look, man, I had a lot of ambitions because of my reading and writing, and it fucked my life up. Like, my life did not go the way I wanted it to, and it caused me a lot of problems. You know, they can learn trades. Trades are good. Always need a good tradesman.
You know, fair and base Shakespeare.
Yeah, like, I'm not one of those people who believe Shakespeare didn't write anything, just throwing that out there. I just like making fun of it and pointing it out.
I mean, it's totally reasonable that he stole...
I mean, yeah.
He definitely stole plays. Like, that's almost undebatable at this point in history.
Yeah, a lot of playwrights around that time, we have proof of them stealing other people's plays.
Yeah. In fact, it was very common in history to just steal stuff from other people and put your name on it because... Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, we still do that today. That's what AI is.
Yeah.
Huh.
Anyways, though, getting back into that. So, Charlie, who plays Dominoes, is really popular. And as they're getting ready to leave, a young college girl walks up to him and gives him her number.
We did forget something in the earlier scene with, it doesn't matter. We're not giving you a point-by-point play down this. We're giving you enough of the show to let you know what we think of it.
So then Mac tries to convince Charlie to call her.
Charlie throws the number away initially.
And Mac picks it up and he's like, nah, man, you gotta call her. And Charlie's like, I don't think we need to be meeting black women. It's about the bar. We should be meeting black men.
And Mac is like,
what? No.
You still got that waitress's picture in your wall, don't you? And he's like, no, I don't. Why would I have that? No, you're wrong. And then...
That's because he's a fucking stalker. That's why.
Yeah, then Mac and Charlie get into, like, an actual, like, physical roll around on the ground altercation as Mac tries to get...
As you said when we were watching it, it is, like, the most 2005 dude-bro interaction that I've seen in recent history.
This show is, like, the epitome of dude-bro culture in the early outs.
Yep.
I don't think that's a good thing, but it's definitely like, oh, yeah, no, this is 100% the way guys acted. And, like, not in, like, a joking way. Like, this is how people were.
I gotta throw those out there. You say aughts with a soft consonant and Philadelphia with a hard consonant. What the fuck, bro?
What do you want me to say? Outs?
It's aughts. You said outs. It's aughts and Philadelphia. Instead, you say outs and Philadelphia.
I don't hear the difference.
Fuck you. Anyways, so they get into a scrap. Mac basically wins, and Charlie concedes that he will call her.
Oh, yeah, because Mac finds the picture in the wallet, and he's like, I'm going to tear it up. And Charlie's like, no, I'll call her.
Yeah. So then we cut back to the bar where Terrell shows up as Dennis and Dee are setting up for the night.
And he's like, hey, Dennis, I need to talk to you outside.
Well, when he first walks in, Dee goes to, attempts to kiss him. He turns it into a cheek peck. And when he goes to talk to Dennis, he, caresses Dennis's hand. Mm-hmm. And then has Dennis join him outside where there's a giant fucking line of people.
Yep. And he's like, first rule, always keep a line. Which honestly, if you're running a business and you can keep a line out the door,
do it.
Like, even if you have to artificially make that line exist, it creates a sense of demand, which increases the likelihood that people will wait in the line even more.
There is a lot of clubs and bars will do that for no reason other than the fact that it does that.
There is a break point where the line gets too long and people are like, gotta go somewhere else.
It's why a good, like, doorman monitors the length of your line. It's why in, like, classic sitcoms, but it's the reason why they're in sitcoms because it's existed in your life. You have doormen basically dismiss people and say, like, hey, you're not getting in the club. It's not even necessarily because, like, they don't match the aesthetic for it. Those are generally the people they do target. It's because by thinning the line, you make the line shorter so you can keep that break point at a better balance.
It also creates a sense of exclusivity, which also drives demand.
Yep.
I don't know why we're giving you a lesson on how to run clubs and bars, but you're welcome. If you're a successful club or bar owner and you take these tips and capitalize on them, you're welcome.
Also, for bottle service, you should use a Kirkland brand bottle of vodka. The ones that are so fucking large and ridiculous. This is a reference to a different podcast that I know Josh doesn't get, and I'm not clarifying what.
I'm so confused. Okay.
It's fine.
But is Kirkland even any good?
It's cheap and big.
Yeah, so Stolsky.
Yeah. Kirkland is also Costco. Just depends on the regionality.
So, back inside the bar, it's hopping, busy.
And Dee, Charlie, Mac, Dennis, they're all thrilled at first. They're like, there's a lot of fucking people here. This is great.
But Dee is super confused because she's getting, like, no tips, and her brother Dennis is getting all the tips.
And then they all notice there's a lot of guys.
And then
Mac sees his cousin. Well, Charlie sees Mac's cousin. The two go over to talk to him.
And Mac's cousin Brett's like, dude, it's so nice to see you. It's wild how you've changed your opinions on stuff.
I'm so proud you've grown so much.
And Mac's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you run the
hottest gay bar in Philadelphia.
And Mac's like, what? No, I don't. No, I don't.
Yeah. So then they all kind of get dragged to the back to have a quick meeting about the fact that they're now running a gay bar. And Charlie and Dennis don't care, but Mac and Dee are upset.
Yeah, well, like, this happens after the bar closes for the night.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're also counting the money out, kind of. And Dee's like, no, I'm against it. We can't do it.
Yeah.
And then Mac, they all take a vote. And
they take a vote the next morning at some place.
And Dee's trying to get a vote in. But, like, obviously Dennis and Charlie are totally down for it because they're making money. And
they're making so much money.
And, like, reasonable people, I don't care if my money's coming from straight people or gay people.
Yeah.
Like, it's money, and I don't, like, care as long as, like, they're not doing anything to hurt my bar. Who cares?
So, as they're arguing, they just have a vote, and Charlie and Dennis vote for, and as Mac and Dee are getting ready to vote
against it, obviously.
Dennis is like, Dee, you don't get a vote. And she's like, what? And he's like, yeah, you're not an owner of the bar.
Charlie's like, yeah, you don't get a
vote. You're not an owner of the bar.
And Charlie's like, okay, so all owners of the bar that vote against, nay. And, like, he repeats it a couple times, and finally Mac goes, nay.
So then Charlie's like, well, 2-3.
2-1.
2-1, we win, yeah. Sorry.
And that's the end of it for them.
But Dee and Mac are still pretty upset, so they're going to try to come up with a way to deal with this.
Meanwhile, Charlie has called back Janelle and has decided to go on a date with her. So he picks her up at her place, and he's like, hey, you want to go get a drink? And she's like, yeah, sure. And he takes her to the coffee shop where the waitress that he has a crush on works.
The one who thinks he's racist.
And she's like, I don't really drink coffee. He's like, don't worry about it. I'll get you something to drink. And goes up to the counter to order.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, waitress, you see that woman, the black woman over there?
That lovely young woman over there who happens to be black?
She's my friend. And the waitress is like, oh, good for you. And he's like, yeah, you see,
The other day, you thought I was being racist and you insinuated that I was like Hitler, but I'm not. She's my friend.
And she's like, oh, great. What can I do for you? He's like, oh, you want to go on a date now? And she's like, I've said no before. Like, I'm still saying no. And he's like, but, and like this devolves.
Yeah.
Eventually, Janelle comes
approaches.
Up and she's like, what's going on? And the waitress is like, oh, Charlie is using you to prove that he's not racist to try to get a date with me. And Janelle's like, is that true?
And Charlie's like, well, maybe. And
would you be upset if it was?
Yeah. And then we cut to the bar where he is now holding ice to his face because you punched him in the fucking face, which fair.
Honestly, a lot of the stuff that happens in this show, I just go, fair. Yeah. Fair play.
So now at the bar, Dennis is like dressed in a tank top and he's actively flirting with the guys.
He's actively, am I allowed to say the term Q baiting? Like, yeah, he's actively queer baiting.
Yeah.
Like he's in a tank top, dancing for the guys, flirting with them. And, like, I don't think that's wrong as a server. Like, as a server, half of your job is...
Service industry, half your job is literally just whatever it takes to get a tip that doesn't cross any, like, comfort boundaries with people, or, I guess, legal boundaries as well.
Mm-hmm. Like, he's not doing anything against the law or anything like making people uncomfortable. He's totally fine. Like, he's just making money.
Yeah.
Let the guy work.
So, Dee drags Mac into the back and tells him, well, first she asks what happens to Charlie. And Mac explains that a girl named Janelle punched him, and then he says her last name, I don't remember what it was. And she's like, oh, I know her.
And this was set up earlier because Terrell mentioned he had a sister that went to the college that Mac and Charlie went to. It's his little sister. The reveal comes later, but like that.
So Dee drags Mac in the back then to explain her plan, which is she wants Mac to get Dennis blackout drunk. No matter what it takes, get him blackout drunk.
Specifically, tequila drunk.
Yes. And then she is going to go find some of her actor friends. She does not explain what that's for, but at that point, to me at least, fairly obvious.
Yeah. And then we cut to a brilliant scene. I love this scene so much. It's Mac sitting at the bar with Dennis serving, and Mac is also pouring shots of tequila. And he's like, so you take the shot of tequila, then you lick the salt and you bite the lime. And Dennis goes, no. You lick the salt, you take the shot and you bite the lime. And Mac goes, can you show me again?
I don't think I'm getting that. So.
And Dennis is already plastered at this point. And so Mac is still pouring Dennis shots and be like, okay, so you bite the lime and take the shot, then lick the salt.
And Dennis is like, no. I just stops responding. He's passed out at the bar, holding a shot glass.
This bit's like a full 2 minute and a half of screen time, though. I love it.
And then we cut to the next morning, where Dennis is waking up in a bed with a man, and then another man walks out of, assumingly, a shower, and Dennis is aghast and terrified for...
The man in the bed implies that they only pleasured each other with their hands.
Yes.
But the man that walks out of the bathroom into Dennis's bedroom smacks him on the ass and implies that they had anal.
I mean, he just asks how his ass is. It still could just be hand stuff.
I mean, it could be. I don't think that's the implication, though.
Neither do I, but I'm just saying it could be.
And so we cut to the bar, and Dennis is in the bar, and he's like, that's it. We're firing Terrell. We're no longer a gay bar. Never again.
We've done the experiment. We're good.
And Mac continuing being like,
oh, so we're done with the experiment? No more experimenting?
So you've experimented and you found out you didn't like it. So now, and he keeps pushing this terminology. And eventually Dennis adopts it. He's like, why are we talking about experimenting? And the episode ends with them firing Terrell because...
Well, it's with them attempting to fire Terrell. He's still like, why? Trying to get an explanation. Janelle walks in and Charlie freaks out because apparently the last time she saw him, she also told him she would slit his throat if she saw him again.
Yeah, and she walks in the bar, and he's like, Janelle, what the fuck are you doing here? And Terrell's like, that's my sister. You don't talk to her like that.
Basically says don't talk to her like that, because Mac's like, what are you talking about? Charlie calls her the bitch who punched him in the face.
Oh, yeah.
And then Terrell's like, that's my sister.
And Mac's like there was a joke earlier about brothers, because colloquialisms in the black community, brother. He's like, so sister? Or and Terrell's like, my sister.
And he's like, oh, okay, see, because that's funny, because you thought I was being racist before when I said all of you people related, and he's like, I didn't mean you people, I meant you two. And then Dee just tells him to shut up, and that's the end of the episode.
And so everybody disperses, and Dee and Mac are sitting there, and Mac's like, what'd you have your actor friends do anyways? And Dee goes, I couldn't get a hold of them. So the implication is that Dennis flirted too much, got too drunk, and actually had gay relations with two men. Yeah. And that's the end of the episode.
Yep. So what are your thoughts on episode 1 of Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
This feels like the type of first episode that gets a show canceled.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking. This feels like the type of first episode that would, offend the censors to such a degree that it just doesn't get a second episode. How did It's Always Sunny get 16 fucking seasons?
Honestly, I'm more surprised by the fact that it was 2005, and they happily, I'm glad they did this, but I'm also somewhat surprised. 2005, the first episode heavily involved gay people, and they didn't take pot shots at gay people.
Well...
Not a lot. Nothing extremely aggressive.
There is an implication that the first person in Dennis's bed is a cross-dresser, and that's supposed to be a horrifying thing, and
oh yeah, I guess that didn't even clock in my brain.
That's a bit of a thing that I was like, that's uncomfortable.
That's one, other than I guess Terrell being a musical actor.
Oh yeah, because we missed the part where Dee goes to his apartment and is like, I've been flirting with you for 6 weeks. She's like, why didn't you tell me you were gay? He's like, I'm a musical theater actor in Philadelphia. I thought it was obvious.
Yeah.
And like that's also a little bit on the nose.
Yeah, but it's nothing like some of the horrible fucking pot shots you were getting at gay people in the mid-2000s.
Yeah, I mean,
on TV.
It's definitely not the worst. There's just some questionable things.
But would you watch episode 2?
Outside of the podcast, probably not. And like this hinges on like a whole thing with me. I'm not big into like situational comedies where the show doesn't seem to progress, right? Like
fair, neither am I.
Like sitcoms that always revert to the status quo are not like my thing. Scrubs has a through line that
for the most part, there's some episodes that definitely don't matter. But.
And Scrubs is my favorite by a large margin because of that through line.
Yeah.
But in general, not the biggest fan of sitcoms. And this first episode isn't enough to make me go, oh, I want to watch next week's episode.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Me either. Like, it had a few moments that were like bare chuckles, like barely a chuckle, but like, eh.
I will say, I think I thought it was funnier than you did.
Yeah, you definitely did.
I actively enjoyed this episode. I would not be upset if I was just hanging out somewhere and this episode played on TV.
I wouldn't be either. I just wouldn't have really noticed, probably.
Yeah. So onwards to episode 2, which...
Charlie wants an abortion.
Does he know men, in general, can't get abortions?
If you ask the men of Patty's Pub, they should at least get a vote.
I don't entirely disagree with that sentiment. I don't entirely agree with it. I think it's a complex issue.
I think input in any, like, I think in any actual relationship of, like, two people, there should obviously be discussion, value, and input, but the situation which they're referring to where he hooked up with a girl, she got pregnant, and then they had no relationship outside of that, no, it's not your choice. You have no input of value, no opinion that matters. But, like, yeah, in an active relationship, that's because it's a big decision, and any big decision in a relationship you should talk about, like.
I think even one-night stands, there should be some input from both sides. I just don't know how much you weigh it, like, in the favor of the person that doesn't have to do the...
I think you're allowed to give your opinion, and then whatever is done with that.
Yeah, that seems like where I'm standing on.
Yeah, it's not a vote. You get a brief statement, and that's it.
Oh, it's a vote, but it's got like a quarter weight.
I wouldn't even call it a vote.
It's a vote, but it has like a quarter weight, which doesn't matter when only 2 people get a vote. And
we really shouldn't be doing fractional votes. America has a bad history with fractional votes, man. Just vote.
Why do you think I didn't say it was a third weight of the vote?
I mean, that's still not the issue. The issue would be if it was 3/5 of a vote.
Oh, 3/5. That's my bad. My bad. I was thinking America valued black people even less than they did.
Wow, talking to your biases much?
I mean, that's just how I perceive American history.
How you perceive America.
That's how we've
treated that was my point. I realized when I said it made it sound like you didn't like black people. I mean, you didn't like America.
I mean, in that case, yeah. Biased a little bit. I've lived here my entire life. I think
it's a bad time.
I have the experience necessary to make those biased judgments. Anyways, this episode starts at 11:45 on a Tuesday morning. Mac and Dennis are playing basketball, and Charlie, because he's short, is being relegated to being the referee.
Yes, and he is getting upset about not being able to play basketball. They won't let him. And then they ask him if he's going to go all mad munchkin on him, and then they start dancing around like they are munchkins from The Wizard of Oz, and asking if he's in charge of the Lollipop Guild.
There's also a brief bit before this where Dennis is making fun of Mac's shirt because it's a picture of the Liberty Bell, and it says, "Come to Philly for the crack."
Yeah, come to Philly for the crack, some shit like that.
And he's like, your shirts are so stupid. Like they have stupid slogans and they're not original and they're stupid jokes. And
every guy on some insert, I guess, Philadelphia street wears those. But as they're doing that, a woman's yelling at Charlie and then eventually gains his attention by saying, "It's about our son."
Mm-hmm. Her name is Stacy. Her and Charlie hooked up either at the end of high school or like sometime shortly after high school.
Yes.
The implication is that Charlie has a 10-year-old son with her.
Yep.
And we learn that because after she says it's about her son, Dennis says, "That's not a sentence you ever want to hear." And then they cut to the bar
where everyone's talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is where we get into the argument where Charlie, Mac, and Dennis Charlie and Dennis are like, men should have a say in whether or not you get an abortion. Because Charlie's like, I just wish I had known 10 years ago. And Dee's like, oh, so you could do the right thing and like be there for him? And he's like,
no, so I could do the right thing and have her get an abortion. And she's like, well, I mean, ultimately it's her body, her choice. And Dennis is like, I think guys should have a vote.
It's wild.
And Mac's response is, no one should have a choice. It's God's choice.
It is wild to me that this episode that came out in 2005 was a political issue that we resolved. And then by the time the two of us, finally got around to watching it, is now a political issue again.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucking wild. Because
it's like in the past,
10 years.
10 years, the right's just been running a play, on a repeat, their greatest hits.
Like, the fact that the talking points are still exactly the same.
Do you think in their first season, Always Sunny in Philadelphia has an episode about school shootings? Because then we're kind of just rounding this out, like massive racism problems.
Also, like
abortion,
police brutality,
school shootings.
Police brutality has to get a first season episode, right?
Like, yeah. Like we get those 4, and it's.
You know, what'd be insane is if they also had one about Palestine.
Fair.
Ooh.
But anyways, though...
Actually, Palestine might be too specific. Yep. It might just be funnier if they have an episode involving a totalitarian government actively committing genocide, because that's happening twice right now.
Yeah, fair.
Like, it would be very relevant.
Yeah.
Which, again, would be prescient of a show from 2005.
But ultimately, Dennis convinces Charlie that he should meet the kid, at the very least, so he can get a paternity test done.
Yeah. Specifically, they want a blood test, which I don't think you have to do a blood test to get a paternity test.
I don't think you have to either, but that's what they're doing.
Also, actually, I know you don't, but like that might be just today, because I know in the modern world you can just do it. Actually, yeah, you could do it. I know in 2005 you could do it without having a blood test, because you and I were both mouth swabbed to put into a database in case we ever went missing.
Were we?
Oh yeah, we were. Our DNA is in some stupid database.
I don't remember that.
It happened before we moved from our hometown.
Maybe it was just you.
No, because we were at our aunt and uncle's, and Mom was there.
Sounds like a you thing.
No.
Never happened.
But I know that they can get your genetics just with a mouth swab. They don't need blood tests.
Yeah.
But anyways, Dennis convinces Charlie to go see his son so he can get a blood test. Charlie talks Dennis into coming with him. He's like, I don't want to go alone.
Yep.
Like,
and meanwhile, Mac heads over to a pro-life campaign headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just there to get information about what God has to say about abortion, apparently.
Not what God has to say about abortion. He knows that's wrong. Yeah. What he's there for specifically is because during this conversation, Dennis goes, what do you think God has to say about blood tests?
Yes.
And Matt goes, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd have to look up some literature.
Yeah. So I assume that's what he's going there for. He gets in, and the woman at the front desk is like, oh, are you here to help out? Join a rally? He's like, no, I just need more information. He's like, well, the Reverend sends out, and he's like, I don't want to join your weird, freaky thing you've got going on here. I just need some literature. And she's like, oh, okay.
The wild thing is, I think Mac is actually pro-choice. Yeah. Like, I think from, like...
I just think he doesn't know he is.
From a character standpoint, Mac is pro-choice, and, like, every action he actually takes when he's not trying to deceive people about it is a pro-choice action.
Yeah, I just honestly don't think he knows what he's about, which, from my understanding, is probably pretty true, because I think, as of, like, currently, and I don't know how long back, though, Mac is actually gay in the show.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how they do his character arc over that, but like it just kind of feels like he definitely doesn't know what all he's about.
That's fair. So Mac goes to the back to find the reading material, and as he does, he sees Hot Lady Trademark working at a cubicle and starts hitting on her and signs up to do a protest and talks about how much he hates dead fetuses because they shouldn't be dead.
They should be alive, and he hates the doctors that kills them.
Yeah, and he's talking really passionately and acting like...
And she's really impressed by his passion for...
And importantly, for any OC fans, this is the actress that played Taylor Townsend in the OC. She was in 31 episodes and an incredibly important part for the last 2 seasons.
And in 1 episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. She's in more.
I doubt she's a recurring character.
I wouldn't think so. So then we see Charlie and Dennis at the free clinic.
Well, first they go to the house to pick up the kid.
Oh, yes.
Where the kid proceeds to call them the F slur because he assumes they're gay.
So did his mother.
She assumed that Charlie became gay after high school.
Because Dennis came with him.
Yeah.
For moral support, which is fair.
Totally fair. I wouldn't, like... Also, it feels like a trap, you know? Like,
yeah, it does. It feels very much like a trap, so...
I don't know what the trap is, but like being like, hey, we had sex once 10 years ago. I have your son, who is definitely not a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
He's older than 10. There's no way this kid's young. This kid's 10 years old.
So Stacy takes off, leaving Charlie's son, Tommy, with them, and they tell him they're going to go to the park. He doesn't want to go, and they're like, that's fine, we're not going to the park. They take him to a free clinic to get his blood drawn.
And he is too much of a hellion for that to work because he will not sit still or shut up long enough to get blood drawn. Like, not because he's afraid of needles or anything. They don't even get to that point. They're in the waiting room.
Yeah. And he just keeps annoying Charlie to the point that Charlie covers his mouth with his hand, and then he bites Charlie, and they kind of just drag him out of the waiting room.
So they head back to Patty's, and Tommy is throwing a fit about wanting to go to the mall. He is initially just messing with the foosball table.
Yep. And then he starts trying to, I assume, knock the heads off of the foosball players with a pole cue.
And shouting about wanting to go to the mall. Dennis is like, I'm not going anywhere with him anymore.
Yeah.
Screw you. And Dee's like, oh, I'll go if Dennis runs the bar.
And he's like, yeah, sounds good.
And then before they leave for the mall, Tommy hits, and like not just like hits, but like
he takes
baseball
the legs out
swings.
from underneath Charlie.
Yeah. They go to the mall. Tommy runs off screaming, "You have to buy me a toy!" Runs into a toy store.
Yeah.
Dee and Charlie talk about how much of a hellion he is, and Dee's like, "He can't be your kid. You know, like there's no way you're going to be able to like be a dad.
What are you going to do if he is your kid?" To which Charlie's response is just a fully appropriate response in that situation, which is probably kill myself.
Which honestly is kind of my response anytime life slightly inconveniences me. Yeah. So if life suddenly threw a 10-year-old child in my way, I would be like, yeah, you know, this isn't even a probably anymore.
But while they're there, they see the waitress Charlie has a crush on, and she is with her little sister.
But not like her little sister, but like the Big Brothers Big Sisters program little sister. Charlie makes this mistake because the little sister is Hispanic, and Charlie's like, weird, your sister's Mexican.
Well, he's like, it's weird that she's the other sister. She looks Mexican. To which the waitress, begrudgingly, it seems to be like, is like, she is Mexican. Like, it feels like the line is delivered like, you have just blatantly assumed a Hispanic child is Mexican. You are correct, but don't make that assumption.
There's a lot more Hispanic countries than Mexico.
Yeah,
a lot. And then she explains what a little sister is, and Dee kind of like,
in an attempt to wingman for Charlie, is like, yeah, that's what Charlie here is. That's what Charlie's here for too. See that adorable kid over there, and we see Tommy holding a toy gun up to another kid's head.
That's his little brother. And she's like, oh, so you're involved with the program? And Dee's like, oh, it's his favorite program. And she's like, oh, so you're going to the cookout on Saturday? And Charlie's like, are you going to the cookout on Saturday?
And she's like, yeah. And he's like, cool.
She's like, maybe we'll see you there. And he's
like, well, what if we carpooled? You know, like save the environment, and you know the kids would love it.
Yeah, Tommy likes Mexicans.
Yeah, and she's just like, yeah, okay.
Very, very grudgingly accepts.
And then from there, we cut to Mac at a rally, I believe, where it's an anti-abortion rally. They're just yelling hateful things at doctors as they leave their job.
Not even doctors, but like the women who just like...
Well, I mean, I think the first time we see them, we do see a doctor leaving. And then when we see them again later, it shows a young woman leaving.
Pro-life rallies have like... I don't care. If pro-life is even like a reasonable stance, which I'm not saying it is, it's totally bullshit.
Also, it's not pro-life; it's anti-abortion.
Yeah.
They don't give a fuck about like the child.
Doctor Who just did a whole episode.
Yeah, exactly.
But like pro-life rallies at abortion clinics or at family planning clinics are like they are the same equivalent to me as Westboro Baptist rallies at soldiers' funerals. Like it doesn't accomplish anything. You just look like a stupid bigot with like terrible opinions. Like I don't even think like I think there's a portion of the right-wing politics who also look at these people and are like, no, they're stupid.
Yeah.
Because the messages you're chanting and sending make you look stupid. Like, what if Jesus was aborted? Well, I mean, Jesus probably couldn't have been aborted if you actually believe in your religion. Like,
yeah, he's a magic kid. You would have just had an undead fetus come back to life.
He comes back to life anyways.
Yeah.
What's the difference if it happens 33 years earlier?
Yeah. But as they're talking, as they're at the rally, she starts talking because he's there with I'm
scrolling for the name.
Megan.
He's
there with Megan, and she's really excited about how passionate he is about everything.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I really am. And she's like, yeah, it's just so great. He's like, if you really want to see how passionate I am, hands her a list. And she's like, what's the list? And he's like, it's all the doctors I plan on killing.
All abortion doctors I plan on killing. And she's like, 2 names are already crossed off. And he looks at the camera and kind of nods upwards. He's like, I know.
And then when he says, I know, tilts his head down to look at her. It's very, like, definitely maybe era style Ryan Reynolds acting.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds before he was Deadpool.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds before he did action movies.
Yeah.
Exclusively.
Yeah.
I need that.
Definitely maybe.
I need that Ryan Reynolds back.
Definitely maybe. It's my favorite Ryan Reynolds movie.
Anyways, they go to her car and proceed to have sex in the parking lot of an abortion clinic.
And then we're back at the bar where Mac is trying to convince Dennis that he should go to an abortion rally because Megan's a freak and like there's a lot of women at the rallies.
And he's like, oh, so when's the next abortion rally? And Mac
is just like, oh, it's at blah, 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 abortion clinic.
And he's like, cool, I'll go too, just so at least there's one pro-choice voice to be heard. And
Max is like, I think they're fine. There's a lot of women there, and that's like there.
And then it's like, hey, D, which side do you think has more women? And he's like, probably the side that's like voicing the idea of women's bodily autonomy.
And then he looks over at Mac and he's like, I think I'm going to go with the pro-choice side. But there was a great line before that when he decides he's going to go with Mac, where he's just like, really? You're going to give up all of your convictions to get laid? And just like, I don't really have any convictions.
So we then cut to them at a pro-life, pro-choice abortion thing. I don't...
Protest. It's a pro-life protest and a pro-choice anti-protest.
Yes. Dennis basically bounces off every woman he tries to hit on because
every one of them can tell he's just being fucking skeezy as fuck.
Yeah, he's scummy as all shit and very obvious about it. And they're like, are you trying to hit on me at an abortion rally?
Yeah. And then he walks up to Dee and he's like, none of these women here seem to be interested. And she's like, yeah, it's probably because they can tell you're scum.
And on the other side, Mac is like trying to have flirty banter with Megan, but she doesn't understand his references. He makes a reference to Apocalypse Now, and she's like, you shouldn't joke about the apocalypse, you know?
Yeah. And she's like, have you seen Passion of the Christ? I've seen it 12 times.
And it just keeps going in that direction. And then
Dennis gives him a phone call.
And Mac's like, yeah, there's a bunch of babes over here. You should try
Hop the fence and come over here.
And so, being an idiot, Dennis literally hops the fence, and the pro-lifers are like, oh, they've done this before. And
they're coming for us. They're going to attack us.
And so they get out a bunch of eggs and start...
Which is actually it's just a fun little thing.
And
eggs.
Apparently...
An abortion.
Mm-hmm. And apparently, the pro-lifers have thrown eggs at people before, because the pro-choicers have brought eggs as well, as a countermeasure.
And so, Dennis just gets caught in the middle at the top of a fence being pelted with eggs.
On both sides.
Yep.
Which, hilarious. Dennis is a terrible person. But at the end of the rally, Megan's like, Mac, I have to tell you something.
It's a miracle. I'm pregnant.
And Mac's like,
wait, what?
You have to get an abortion now.
And she's like,
I knew you weren't different. I knew you were a piece of shit. He's like, but it's different for us. And she's like, it's not different. Anyways.
He's like, but you're pregnant. She's like, it was a test. You failed.
And he's standing at her car window. He's like, you're not pregnant? And she's like, no. And he's like, it was a test? And she's like, yes. And he's like, I failed. And she just drives off.
Yeah. And then back at the bar, Charlie is arriving with Tommy to, I guess, open
the bar, yeah.
And they are opening early in the fucking morning because the plan was for him to meet up with the waitress at 8 a.m.
Yep, I guess.
So their bar is either opening late that day. I mean, no. Their bar is either opening super early that day for some reason, or their bar opens at 8.
I mean, I imagine their bar, I imagine it's probably opens at 9 or 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And he shows up early to get stuff set up and prep and
Yeah, at least I think they agree to meet at 8, right?
They say 8. It's not clarified if it's 8 p.m. or 8 a.m.
But then he's complaining when we get back there because we actually went there before we went to the rally.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just him and Tommy with an interaction of him. Oh fuck, we missed an entire thing. So Charlie goes back over to.
Oh yeah, before the abortion rally, but after the toy store.
Yeah, he goes back over to Tommy's mom's house and he's like, hey, so could I see Tommy and hang out with him on Saturday?
Do some father-son bonding stuff.
And she's like, fuck, I can't do this anymore. He's not your kid.
And he's like, oh, okay, well you can't just do that, And she's like, yeah, honey. He's like, well,
look, his father left me 6 months ago and he was a real piece of shit. So I thought maybe you'd be a better role model. It's like, that doesn't matter. That's fucked up. You can't just do that to someone.
And he's like, but can I still borrow him on Saturday? And
she pauses for a moment and she's like, yeah, of course.
She also mentions his dad's name, and his dad was apparently a piece of shit dickbag in high school.
Yeah. But so then when he's at the bar, they're opening and Tommy's just being petulant. And he's like, look, as long as you act great, I'll get you anything you fucking want.
Yep. And so he sets Tommy down in the bar while he's busy doing stuff.
Bartending,
getting stuff ready.
And then he's complaining as the others show back up because it's almost 11:30 and they were supposed to be here a while ago. And the waitress is supposed to be there soon.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. I could have sworn they said 8.
They definitely said 8.
I think it's just an inconsistency thing.
Yeah, 100%.
Because also it's a picnic at a park. I wouldn't expect them to be there at 8. I don't know what's going on with the time stuff. But as he goes to get Tommy, Dee also walks over to grab him because Dennis is freaking out. Charlie, I told you I don't want kids in the bar anymore. Mm-hmm. Which the fact that he has to say anymore.
Oh no, there's an episode that is pre-episode 1.
I mean, the next episode is literally underage drinking a national problem.
Yes, I saw the title of that episode.
Yeah. And Dee walks over to grab him to start removing him out of the bar. And she's like, this kid smells like alcohol.
And
Charlie's like, no, he doesn't. He does not.
I guess he's been taking sips of people's beers when I wasn't looking. But he has 2 full-on beer steins in front of him. Yeah. So Charlie has Tommy outside behind the bar, and he's trying to sober him up. He's like,
and Tommy's yelling at him about how he's ugly and stuff. And Charlie just breaks. And he's just like, look, you're ugly. You're such a nuisance. You're such a problem. No wonder you don't have a dad anymore. And as he says that line, the waitress walks up and she's like, what is wrong with you? And he's like, hey, look, it's not what you think.
And Tommy yells, goes, I'm drunk.
And then Charlie's like, no, you're not.
And
they
she's like,
yell that back and
forth. He kind of sounds drunk.
And then Tommy throws up.
Yeah.
And she leaves.
Yep. And that's pretty much the end of the episode. There's a final stinger,
where Charlie goes to see Tommy's dad and is like just going to be like, hey, you're a shit father. Like,
but earlier
spend time with your kid. Your kid's kind of an asshole.
Earlier in the episode, specifically in the clinic for the blood test, Charlie was trying to like just have a conversation with the kid, and the kid was just going, why?
Yeah.
Why?
So
why?
when Charlie's then trying to explain to Tommy's father, Kyle, that, hey,
Tommy needs you in his life, Tommy's father's like, why?
And like Charlie's going to explain, like, because it's fucking up your son's life, and it's just like,
why?
Really, this game? And he just repeats this conversation he has with Tommy, and that's the end of the episode.
Yep, that's It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the first 2 episodes.
So, thoughts?
The second episode is less funny than the first, although it is incredible how prescient it is for today's political atmosphere.
Yeah.
It kind of feels Simpsons-esque in that
Almost.
way.
Yeah, I would agree.
You know how Simpsons predicts everything, including Donald Trump being president?
Yeah.
Thanks, Simpsons. Thanks for doing that.
They should really stop. They should just stop making The Simpsons.
It's just making the world worse.
Yep.
But, yeah, no, this episode's not as good as the first, in my opinion. Not as funny.
I think it has a few jokes that are better, but I would say less good jokes overall.
Yeah. But after this episode, though, I'm mostly on, like, I've seen enough of the show, I know the characters.
Yeah.
I can now put the show on in the background while I do other stuff and just not pay attention to it.
Yeah, I think it's fine background noise. It's still not a show that I understand how it got 16 seasons.
Probably 17.
By this point?
Probably 17.
Like,
I don't think it's canceled yet.
Yeah. Like, at this point, I still don't understand it, but I would assume it gets funnier when Danny DeVito enters as a main character consistently in season 2.
Look, all the funniest things have Danny... Well...
Almost all the funniest things have Danny DeVito in them.
I still think The Implication is one of the funniest bits from this show because of, like, the actual social commentary and the actual hilarity of it.
Yeah.
But I just started blasting is, like, peak Danny DeVito.
It's also great, yeah.
So, and also Rumham and Milksteak
yep.
and Nightman. Like, this show has bangers, and I don't want to have to sit through the not bangers to get to it, but, like...
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Seems like an okay sitcom.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know if this review had a lot of merit to it, because I feel like if you've been interested in Noah Sunny, you've probably watched it by this point.
And if you have no interest in it like I did, you're probably still at a point where you're like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think the show's worth it.
Yeah. But it was mainly for self-experience to figure out why does every clip or still seem to be such like great tier comedy bit or moment, and why have I never watched the show before this then?
Every time I see a clip or a meme from this show, my instant reaction is, man, It's Always Sunny is so fucking hilarious. I need to watch It's Always Sunny.
And then you just think about it for a moment. You're like, no one I know has told me anything good about It's Always Sunny.
Now, after having watched 2 episodes of It's Always Sunny, I can be like, oh, I mean, yeah, out of context, some of these clips are actually hilarious. But, like, I don't want to have to sit through all of the context to get there.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
Yeah, that's my final take on it.
I would agree.
Well, I guess that's the end of this flight. So we want to thank you for flying with us. And also, always feel free to contact us. There's a myriad of ways to do it. If you have complaints about the flight, or you have conversations in regards to the flight, or you have compliments about the flight, or you just want to tell us that we're pretty and we have the deepest blue eyes.
Actually, they're kind of a blue-green.
You can do that a myriad of ways, but most notably through our Twitter or email, our email being
copilotsreview@gmail.com,
our Twitter being @copilotsreview, which is also our Blue Sky handle.
Or you can find a link to our Twitter, our email, our Discord, our YouTube, and I believe our Patreon.
And I'll add a link to our Blue Sky before this episode goes up
by going to copilotsreview.simplecast.com.
But we just want to thank you for flying.
And please fly again soon.